Most motorcycle owners think they know what they're doing until they destroy a $5,000 engine with a $20 mistake. These 15 things separate real riders from people who shouldn't be trusted with a bicycle, let alone a machine that can hit 100 miles per hour. Number 15. Skipping oil changes because the bike still runs fine. Your engine might sound okay right now, but inside those tight spaces, everything is screaming for help. That golden oil you put in 6 months ago, it's now black sludge with a consistency of chocolate syrup. Here's what actually happens when you ignore oil changes. The oil breaks down, acids form, and your bearings start wearing out. Modern sport bikes spin at 12 to 14,000 RPM. At those speeds, old oil is basically useless. But here's where people get really stupid. They skip the oil filter too, turning their engine into a dirt collection system. I've seen riders justify this by saying they only look at mileage, completely ignoring that oil goes bad just sitting there. Heat cycles break it down even if you're not riding. The result is excess heat, metal shavings, and eventually a seized engine that costs more than your bike is worth. You can spend $60 on oil now or $3,000 on a complete engine rebuild later. If basic math is too hard for you, maybe stick to walking. Number 14. Running on those bald tires just a little bit longer. Those grooves in your tire aren't there to look pretty. They're what keeps you from sliding into oncoming traffic when it rains. Yet some riders wear their rubber down until the steel cords are showing like whiskers. Even worse are those square rear tires, flat in the middle from never leaning over. Now your bike fights you in every corner, steering feels weird, and wet traction disappears completely. Tire blowouts aren't just dangerous at highway speeds either. Even a 50-mile-per-hour rear tire failure can throw you into traffic faster than you can say low side. And you'll pay double when it happens, towing plus emergency replacement at whatever price they want to charge you. Now, here's what smart riders do. Check your tread depth every time you get gas. Keep your pressure exactly where the manual says, and budget for new tires the day you buy your bike. Tires aren't lifetime parts. They're consumables. If you think good tires are expensive, wait until you find out what hospital bills cost. Number 13. Buying cheap universal brake pads and fluid from the discount bin. Brakes either work or you crash. There's no middle ground here. Those mystery meat brake pads from overseas fade after 3 hard stops, glaze your rotors, and never give you the bite you need when some idiot pulls out in front of you. Meanwhile, brake fluid soaks up water like a sponge. That water lowers the boiling point and starts eating your calipers from the inside. I've torn apart 4-year-old brake systems where the fluid looked like soy sauce. The rider was lucky the lever didn't come back to the handlebar during a canyon run. When brakes fail, you're looking at warped rotors for $300 each, destroyed calipers for $200 each, and potentially unlimited frame damage if you hit something hard enough. Spend the extra $20 on proper brake pads and flush your fluid every 2 years. If you can't afford good brakes, you can't afford to ride. Number 12. Over-tightening your chain until it sounds like a guitar string. Your motorcycle chain needs to expand and contract when your suspension moves. When you sit on the bike, the swing arm changes angle and that chain gets tighter. Set it tight on the stand, and the moment you hit a bump, it yanks on your transmission bearings like it's trying to rip them out. Tight chains also destroy your sprocket teeth and can snap under load, sending a steel whip through your engine case or your leg. I've seen transmission output shafts destroyed, engine cases cracked, and riders with chain marks on their calves. A new chain and sprockets will cost you at least $180. An output shaft seal is another $40, but a cracked engine case means a $1,000 repair or a totaled bike. The fix is simple. Follow your manual's free play specification, usually 25 to 35 millimeters, and measure it with your weight on the bike. I mean, if reading a manual is too complicated, maybe motorcycles aren't for you. Number 11. Letting gasoline sit for months without fuel stabilizer. Modern gas with ethanol goes bad in just a few weeks. the good stuff evaporates and leaves behind varnish that clogs everything it touches. Ethanol also attracts water, which means rust forms inside your tank. Come spring, your bike won't start, runs rough, or hesitates when you twist the throttle. Carburetor rebuild kits and injector cleanings aren't cheap, usually running between $150 and $300 plus labor. But here's what's really dumb. People store their bikes for winter without any preparation, then act surprised when nothing works in March. If you're storing for more than 30 days, fill the tank completely to reduce airspace, add stabilizer, and run the engine long enough to get treated fuel through the entire system. Better yet, ride year-round and keep your gas fresh. If winterizing your bike sounds too complicated, maybe you should consider a car. Number 10. Bolting on loud exhaust pipes without remapping your engine. Swapping exhaust isn't plug-and-play like changing your stereo. Those free-flowing pipes change the back pressure, which makes your fuel injection run lean and turns your carburetor jetting into complete garbage. The symptoms are obvious: loud popping on deceleration, higher running temperatures, and ironically, less power than before. Lean conditions melt exhaust valves, which means a $500 repair if you're lucky. Add the legal problems, some noise violations, and some states fine you $2,000 for loud pipes. But here's the stupid part. People think louder means faster. Performance comes from balanced systems, not straight pipes that sound like angry lawnmowers. Buy exhaust from real companies that include fuel maps, or at minimum, get a dyno tune. If you think proper tuning is expensive, wait until you price out new exhaust valves. Number 9. Plugging sidewall punctures or riding on patch tires. Tire plugs are emergency fixes for small holes in the tread area only. Sidewall repairs compromise the structural integrity where flex stress is highest. Once the sidewall is damaged, the tire is dead, period. But some riders think they can patch anything and keep right on going. A sidewall blowout will throw you off faster than you think, and best case is you're stranded somewhere dangerous. Worst case, you're high-siding at 70 miles per hour. If the damage destroys your wheel when the bead lets go, you're looking at a $500 rim plus whatever body damage happens when you crash. Carry a mini compressor and quality plugs for tread punctures, but plan to replace the tire immediately. If the hole's in the sidewall, call for help, because your life is worth more than a tow truck fee. Number 8. Ignoring warning lights or even covering them with tape. That check engine light isn't a Christmas decoration. It's your bike's computer telling you something's wrong. Misfires, sensor failures, lean conditions, they all show up as codes that can cascade into serious engine damage. The amateur fix is black electrical tape because the bike still runs fine. Meanwhile, your computer is running in safety mode, dumping extra fuel, fouling spark plugs, and destroying your catalytic converter. Oxygen sensors cost $100 each. A destroyed catalytic converter on a big bike runs $800. Worse yet, a faulty knock sensor won't pull timing when it should, causing detonation that punches holes in pistons. That's a $1,500 mistake minimum. Pull the codes with a cheap scanner and fix the actual problem instead of hiding the symptoms. Number 7. Using car oil because it's cheaper per gallon. Car oil has friction modifiers that destroy wet clutches found in most motorcycles. Your clutch will start slipping under acceleration. Engine RPM goes up, but speed doesn't. You'll glaze the clutch plates and overheat the springs fast. A complete clutch kit costs $200 to $300 plus labor unless you do it yourself. Motorcycles that share engine oil with a transmission need special additives to handle the gear mesh loads that car oil can't provide. Look for JASO-MA or MA2 specifications on the bottle. Buy motorcycle oil in bulk if you want to save money, but don't gamble with the wrong viscosity. If you can't afford proper oil, you can't afford to own a motorcycle. Number 6. Setting suspension without understanding what the heck you're doing. Forums are full of keyboard experts telling everyone to run 25mm rider sag for sharp handling. Follow that advice blindly on a street bike, and you'll crank the preload until 60% of your suspension travel is wasted. The bike feels harsh, bounces off bumps, and loses front-end grip in corners. Rear preload extremes change your wheelbase and steering angle so much that stability disappears completely. High siding because you hit a pothole is an expensive physics lesson that could have been avoided. Professional suspension setup costs $50 to $100, which is cheaper than replacing your fairings. Achieve your manufacturer's recommended sag, usually 30 to 40% of total travel with your gear on, then fine-tune the damping. If setting suspension sounds too technical, pay someone who knows what they're doing. Number 5. Tightening bolts by feel instead of using a torque wrench. Aluminum threads strip easier than you can curse when you over-tighten them. Sump plugs, handlebar clamps, brake mounts, they're all aluminum, and they all have specific torque valves for a reason. Under-tightened axle bolts vibrate loose and destroy wheel bearings. Over-tightened brake caliper bolts can crack mounting points, and replacement forks cost $700 each. A quarter-inch torque wrench for small bolts costs $40. A half-inch model for axles costs $80. For these service manual specifications, lubricate threads when required, and mark bolts with paint to show if they're loosening. If you think torque wrenches are too expensive, wait until you strip something important. Number 4. Mixing coolant types or running straight water long-term. Green ethylene glycol, orange organic acid technology, blue hybrid organic acid technology, let's just say they don't mix together. Combine different coolant types, and you get this thick sludge that clogs radiators and water pumps. Straight water corrodes aluminum engine blocks and offers zero protection against boiling over. Cooling system failures usually show up as blown head gaskets or warped cylinder heads, which means multi-$1,000 repairs. Riders who top off with tap water every week wonder why their overflow tank looks like rust soup. Flush your coolant system every 2 years. Stick to one coolant specification and use diluted water if you're mixing concentrates yourself. Number 3. Bypassing safety switches because troubleshooting is just too hard. Side stand switches and clutch interlocks prevent you from starting in gear with a stand down. Some impatient riders jumper the wires instead of fixing a sticky switch. Now, your bike can launch itself into cafe windows or parked cars when you forget to pull the clutch. Insurance companies won't be sympathetic when you explain that you disabled safety equipment. These switches exist for good reasons, and diagnosing them usually takes 15 minutes of cleaning and lubrication. The alternative? Property damage, lawsuits, or your shin crushed under 200 kilograms of metal. Number 2. Redlining a cold engine because you're impatient. Cold oil flows like thick syrup and doesn't protect anything properly. Rev to the limiter in the first mile, and you're denying your cylinder walls and bearings the lubrication they need. Metal parts are sized for operating temperature clearances, not cold startup conditions. Spin them too fast when cold, and you get scuffing damage that shows up later as oil burning, piston slap, or spun rod bearings. All of those are engine killers that cost thousands to repair. Keep your RPM under 50% of redline until your coolant and oil reach about 70 degrees Celsius. Most bikes get there in 5 to 10 minutes of gentle riding, and you don't need to idle forever either, because that just wastes fuel and fouls up spark plugs. And number 1, riding without protective gear because it's just a short trip. It's amazing how riders spend thousands on carbon fiber parts but refuse to buy a $200 jacket. The stupid logic is that low-speed errands are safe, but statistics prove that wrong. Most accidents happen close to home at under 60 miles per hour. Hands, ankles, and collarbones are especially vulnerable in crashes. A single degloving injury means months off work and 5-figure hospital bills that make any gear budget look like pocket change. Protective equipment also guards against mechanical failures like coolant leaking onto your rear tire, chain lube overspray, or sudden tire blowouts, any of which can throw you onto concrete at highway speeds. Keep lightweight summer gear and waterproof winter options so you never have an excuse to ride unprotected. These 15 mistakes don't require engineering degrees to avoid, just basic respect for physics and willingness to read your manual. Ignore these basics, and you'll spend more on repairs than riding, assuming you survive long enough to learn from your mistakes.